So should we be following our head and our logic through life mainly, or should we be following our heart, our passions and our emotions, or neither? And if neither, then what should we be following?
And before Melissa and I dive into that question, let's take a look at how powerful our heart actually is and how it can even predict the future, according to a recent study. So your heart can predict the future, literally 6 seconds in advance. That's what researchers discovered over at the Heart Math Institute, where they tested a bunch of people, showing them film clips of different things to evoke emotions, and noticed that their heart was reacting 6 seconds before they saw the picture. Whether the picture was scary or seductive, their heart would react 6 seconds before the eyes actually saw it. This is just more evidence that we're living in a consciousness-based reality, not a materialist-based reality, like sadly most doctors and scientists are subscribed to currently, which is partly why the world has so many problems. The heart has its own intelligence with its own set of neurons, and it can feed into your consciousness information that might be ahead of our regular space-time paradigm that our brain and our eyes are functioning in. The heart also emits a larger electromagnetic field than even the brain. They say a powerful heart can fill a room, and that's more evidence that love is the most powerful force in the universe. So if the heart produces the strongest electrical field in the body and can even predict the future, certainly that's what we should be following, right? Not so fast. Think of the heart as more like a guide, not the master.
The common thing we hear in Hollywood and in books and novels is, what would you think the most common thing we hear is the proper answer to this?
Listen to your heart.
Yeah, follow your heart, listen to your heart.
Doesn't it sound like a Hallmark?
Sounds like Hallmark, sounds like Disney, sounds like Hollywood in general. Sounds like actually a lot of novels, and it actually sounds like me maybe 7 years ago, or even more recently.
And if that's all you had to choose from, you would
really if that's all you have to choose from, we have to think about our emotions. We have to honor our emotions. In traditional Chinese medicine, suppressing our emotions is actually what they consider the root cause of disease. So emotions are vital, and it's one of the purposes we're here. But is the purpose to follow every emotion? Would it be, do you think?
Wow, we'd be in trouble.
We would be in serious
trouble.
Right, so emotions are great, but if we follow every emotion, which comes from the heart, that could actually lead to a lot of things that may not be so desirable, like somebody following their heart into multiple relationships obviously isn't going to be good for any of those relationships on their own. And if we're here to learn how to function in a relationship, and actually sustain something, then, obviously following the heart could be disastrous. Obviously you want to follow the heart toward your soulmate, but your heart can also get bored at times or want to try new things and whatnot. So if you don't have limitations as well, which would come from the head is also logic. So we're getting somewhere with this balance. And that's why some people would say, listen to the heart, but use your head and follow the logic. However,
and also we see here in modern times a word that comes up quite a bit: discernment.
Right, discernment. And so we do have, the head is logical, and it would say, no, we want to sustain this relationship, and not allow some other relationship to intrude on that. And so that's a good balance to have that makes sense. However, when we have this, actually a better way to look at it is, so where does this discernment, where does this mixing of the head and heart happen? And that's what we're actually going to focus on. And that's where I think the third energy center that we're not paying attention to happens. We have the heart energy center, and then we have the logical mind, which we could consider the brain. But then we have a higher guidance as well, which is known as intuition. And so intuition doesn't necessarily come from the heart, actually. Emotions and emotional memories, passions come from the heart. Intuition actually sees through all the emotions. It sees through all the passions. It's like it can decloud the environment to see what's actually going on. And so the intuitive center, maybe you could consider it close to the logic and discernment, but logic and discernment often looks at everything rationally. Intuition is actually able to take what's in our physical world, what's rational, what we think is rational, and mix it with what our emotional intelligence sees, seeing beyond that, and actually come up with a higher vision. In fact, the mystics would say that we're actually first seeing everything intuitively, but then it gets filtered through both our head, which uses logic, which even can include fears and limitations, and then our heart, which includes emotions, which can include cravings and aversions that really also limit us. And so some would say remove the heart, remove the head, and then you're just working on pure intuition, spiritual energy. However, we know that's not really possible in these physical bodies. The physical bodies have a heart filled with emotion, whether we like it or not. We have a brain and a consciousness filled with logic, whether we want it or not. And so it really comes down to...
Right. We're asked to use these elements while on these planets.
Right, we're asked to actually figure this out. We chose, some would say...
to make this machine work.
Yeah, some would say we chose to come down as spirits to figure out how to make these machines work. That's a great way to put it.
And by doing something so horribly as like cutting things off and, blocking things, that's against suppression. It's like, use what you have. You're an amazing spirit. Come down, remember, and learn how to function.
Yeah, remember. See, that's another great word, remember, because they say we're all, our spirits already know this divine truth. And so the challenge here on Earth School is to see whether we can remember that truth. And remembering often means looking beyond the emotions of the heart, though they are keys, and beyond the logic of the head, because it's often based on survival, which is often based on fear. And then you're going to see the truth. And then ironically, when you do see the truth, emotions become lighter. You become more detached from them and able to sift through them and choose the more positive ones and let go of the negative, traumatic ones. And your head becomes more clear because you're not, again, as attached to things. You're not running away or craving things because you're standing more in your spiritual truth, your spiritual essence, your intuition. And that is what we think is the answer. So heart versus head, no, it's more about getting the heart and head to become married actually to each other, learn how to compromise and work together using intuition.
And I guess that's something that has become available, is that science has seen how the brain and the heart are connected. There's channels that...
Right, yeah, that's a great point. Science is, this isn't just woo-woo stuff we're talking here. Science literally even has seen the electromagnetic field of the head, the brain, and the heart also has an electromagnetic field. They also have their own neurons, of all things, their own separate neurons. So a heart has its own emotion. There's like emotional neurons. And now they're discovering how these two work together in kind of the scientific way, which is great, because in the end we want science and spirituality to meet. That's when we know we've reached an age of enlightenment. Right now, a lot of scientists see that, the material world is where everything sprang out of somehow. They don't, a big bang, okay. There's also the consciousness-based scientists that are seeing that consciousness, intelligence was somehow emanating and then gave birth to form, which makes more sense. When we go out to mold clay or do a garden or make food, the idea, that's invisible, that idea essence, that psychology, the mental energy is there first, then the form comes out. So, we're images of God. We're just like him. He had the idea, and then everything sprang forth through that idea. And, that's putting it in very simplistic terms, of course, because, here we are as animals on this animal planet. So how do we turn on our intuitive?
We know we have we know we have the head, we know we have the heart. We know we should connect and balance them and use them in harmony. Yes, in harmony. And
okay, great. That's actually excellent question.
And so how do we now create the Trinity?
Right. The Trinity, beautiful. So some ways I've discovered to do it are you can literally, the mystics have figured out, and even science knows, the pineal gland here is what actually produces a lot of our states of higher consciousness, or it's the symptom of when we're in a higher consciousness. You'll see a lot of activity there. And so activating that in various ways is a very effective route to go. And sometimes all it takes is visualization. They say the color is like an indigo going into a violet, like a lavender. So simply picturing a lavender light at your brow center in your head when you're, just resting in peace is one way to actually start to awaken that center and bring your energy and attention out of kind of the crazy areas down here and up into our higher insight. It's actually closer to our brain, but it's in full connection with our heart as well, because our heart is like a spiritual seat as well. The emotions last after we're gone. Let's just say that.
Wow, I never put together so many connections with the color blue, or as you said, azure, that real high-pitched
That's what
royal
the mystics
blue.
say, and from many traditions,
that
even
color
Christianity
in paint was illegal for back in like the Renaissance or somewhere.
Because it was so precious. They considered it such a precious. Go ahead.
Right. I forget where it came from. It was like Portugal, or it came over, and they made it illegal, and they painted with it, royal paintings or sacred paintings.
So when you would see some of those sacred paintings, when you would see that rare blue or even bordering on purple, yes, that was like a sacred color, especially just pure blue.
The color of Mary's garment is generally blue. You can see other depictions
in the Catholic traditions
of holy.
And so that blue in general is a way of calming emotion as well. And by the way, when I mention emotions last beyond our life here, I mainly mean the positive ones. The anger and stuff, we detach from that once we pass, and we see more the lessons, and we see more from other people's vantages, and we see understanding where people were just in low states of consciousness. So I don't mean that everything, but our consciousness, it does continue. That's why it's so important to work with our emotions here, because what we do here actually does last. A lot of people even believe the reason we come down here, and God wants us to come down here, is to chisel these emotions into a raw form, because we're so challenged emotionally every day down here in many ways. In most ways we never even talk about, right? So just internal emotional wars going on, and the more we balance that, the better we're doing down here, and the more we're actually, I believe, fulfilling that mission.
I feel like intuition.
Okay, I'm sorry. So back to your question. So how do you activate that intuition?
No, we've got the blue.
So the
but
best,
I feel like that for me, it's an open conversation with
your higher self.
I don't actually. I guess it is my higher self, but it's, to be honest, it's more it is God, but it's just an entity that is in charge of
our divine,
me down here.
Yes.
You know, and I can do what I want to do and be a little baby and, not obey, or I can follow.
Yeah, you have that free will, right?
Right.
And so, okay, right. Your
And
guides,
it doesn't mean that you're always that you might always be on the path, or that you're always separate. It's just you're constantly, kind of walking the line.
Absolutely. All right. So that's actually the real. I mean, aside from the colors, literally listening, going into quiet spaces where you don't have any interference from, basically, I hate to say it, other human type things. So nature is great. Simply closing your eyes and having silence or healing music, like the solfeggio frequencies, or just any kind of, meditative music. Closing, because here's the deal, when you actually just simply close your eyes, let go, and listen to your breath, and that's probably the biggest one that will tune you in quickly with your intuition. Just take time out and listen to the incoming and outgoing of your breath. Some say that is actually the voice of the spirit. And so when your breath is calm and even, you're going to hear the voice of your spirit clearly. When it's rushed and you're breathing more up in your upper chest, it's not going to be as good. And so a great technique, actually, because we love teaching practicality, that's what we do over at Club Qigong. Put a hand here on your upper chest and put one on your stomach. And normally in life, you're going to feel that your breath is up here in your upper chest, and that's actually not where it's supposed to be. You want it down in your stomach. So breathe for a moment and feel the hand on your stomach come in, rising and falling, and then you're breathing right. So let's try it for a second. Inhale. Feel that hand rise. Exhale. Letting the air out. Inhale, breathing in beauty and grace. Exhale, breathing out any stale energy and negativity. And so, just keep that breath down in your abdomen, and your whole day will go smoother. You'll be more mindful, and best of all, you'll start tuning in with your intuition, because it just calms down the head and the heart. So there we go. The head and the heart, we want to just basically make peace with them, no more battle. And when they calm down and quiet down, we hear our intuition. And that's when actually the head and the heart get the best gifts and the best manifestation of their best life. So thank you so much. Thank you for Melissa. This is our first podcast here in this new studio here in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and we're just thrilled to be here.
It thumbs up.
And thanks guys. Cheers, Melissa.
Cheers, Joe.
Always great talking with you. And always great being and sharing with you. And definitely feel free to share with us, leave comments, let us know what you like and don't like, and how we can make this better, because we plan on doing more of it.